Hey everyone, this is Luke with Luke F1 Fantasy coming at you with another video as I get my team ready for the China Grand Prix this weekend. We have the sprint coming up in just a short time here, as well as qualifying and the main race over the weekend. But yeah, sorry that this one's a little bit late. I've been at work today, but I'm back now trying to get a quick video out just to let you know what my thoughts are prior to the weekend. So, as some of you may know, my team for week one included McLaren Williams, Lando Norris, Lance Stroll, Hulkenberg, Hadjar, and Doohan. I ended up with 195 points and gaining zero point 0.4 million in team budget. So I certainly dodged a lot of bullets last week, ended up becoming quite fortunate in how I ended up. But start of week one, 32K in the Global League. So taking into consideration sprint qualifying, the predictive tools through F1 Fantasy Tools, having lots of discussions in the Discord group. It's been amazing kind of like connecting with a lot of you Fantasy One F1 fantasy managers over Discord, over Twitter, over YouTube. So I'm kind of like leaning towards we're going to go through a couple of things today. We're going to go through what sort of my team one, which is my main team, and then I'm going to show you team two, which is a team that I have going, which kind of really did lose a lot of value. So I'll let you know what we're thinking there. But jumping right into it, so my sort of thoughts for my team one, my option one is to stick with primarily the main team and going with one transfer only, which is bringing in Ollie Bearman in replace of Jack Doohan. I like the look of this team. Looking at the points and the budget gained, 219 points with, leading the way with McLaren Norris. That seems, really good. We've got, a decent budget gain there with 1.7 million. So there are teams out there that can get me more points and more budget. The reason why I like this one in particular is that I just tend to use one transfer. And now everyone in this team should go up apart from Isack Hadjar. So I'm kind of carrying one declining asset into this week. But I'm kind of thinking ahead to race week 3 and 4. So rolling an extra transfer will give me some flexibility to do 3 transfers next week, which when you look at some of what you have to do to sort of fit in some assets, sometimes 3 transfers is definitely a lot easier to do than 2. So I like the flexibility it will give me that for next week, plus the points, plus the budget. When I think about race 3 and 3, 4, I'm looking at what I'd like this team next week. The reason why I would like this team next week is that largely some of these assets, if things go well this week, they are probably looking likely to also score a budget increase next week. So maybe an also very similar 1.7 million increase in race week 3. So to get 3.4 million potentially over 2 weeks sounds good. And like I said, it gives me flexibility to then also consider the limitless chip for Japan. Knowing that I have a team that's looking to increase budget, I may be able to roll the dice on going limitless and collecting a lot more points there. So this is definitely one that I'm leaning towards. I'm not ready to lock it in just yet. I just want to make sure that nothing's coming about from this Williams investigation that's happening. My thoughts are I don't think much is going to happen, but, let's just wait and see. I've got some time to lock in. Now, an option 2 that I'm looking at for this team would be to look at a triple Haas build. Now, before you say anything, I know you guys was going to laugh at me, but looking at this team, just purely on the data, again, high points potential, 216, but almost 1 million extra in budget gains, so kind of getting me up to that 2.8 extra million. Now, this also would be a team that if it did well and I wanted to carry it into Japan and also go limitless, there also is also a chance that this team could get me that budget again. The problem is it's still coming back to, it is still triple Haas. And I'm not sure if they've shown us enough just yet to really want to roll the dice on this one. my team is in a position where I did quite well last week. I'm ahead of most people, so I don't necessarily need to fully sort of like swing for the fences here. But I just kind of wanted to bring it up to kind of say like this is sort of somewhat viable for sure. Um, but I have been looking at Williams. Williams continues to look fast, so I kind of think I want to keep some Williams assets into next week. And I'm maybe kind of looking at the driver lineup and thinking maybe I do trust, Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz, over at Ocon and Behrman, even though I think they would be good choices for this week. Now, before I jump into my Team 2 selection, I just wanted to sort of bring up a chart that I was looking at for China, taking some of the data that we had for the teams when they ran in sprint quali. Now, top speed may be something that's going to be interesting this week. China has a lot of long straights. I think there's 2 DRS zones. The FIA have extended one of the DRS zones by an extra 75 meters. And China being historically a racetrack that has a lot of overtakes, teams that are potentially starting at the back of the grid with a high top speed may stand a chance of getting some extra overtake points and reigns and positions gained points. So while Williams aren't necessarily qualifying at they're kind of qualifying at, sort of above the top 12 right now. If anything comes from this investigation, and if they end up getting sort of like, dropped down a few places, then they become even better. And so looking at this chart, obviously, kind of taking out sort of your Red Bulls, your Mercedes, your McLaren and Ferraris, kind of just really focusing on the sort of the outside of the top 4. Williams certainly have the, top speed without DRS. Obviously in they have the same as VCOB, but their top end speed with DRS is higher than most. So I do sort of fancy their chances to get some overtake points this weekend. So that kind of leads us into where I'm thinking with my Team 2 team. Now, here's a review of what my Team 2 team did in week 1. So, it ended up with 118 points, which is pretty good, carried by Norris and McLaren. But team value took a big hit, 97.6 million. So I lost 2.4 and ended up with a, ranking of the top 300k in the global league. So when you look at this team, there really are, I've got 5 assets to move out of this team. Otherwise, this team is just going to tank even more. So Gasly, Doohan, Hadjar, Bortello, Alpine, they just have to go. So this team is just classic. This team needs a wild card. This team needs fixed ASAP. And where I've been looking at with this team is a couple of different options here. So option number 1 at the top there would be to bring in Aston for Alpine, and then swapping out those 4 assets for an Ocon, Behrman, Stroll, and Hulkenberg. You can see there we have points over 200 and an extra 2.6 in budget gain. And the second team there is very similar, aside from we are bringing in Piastri and Albon over a Norris and a Behrman. And as you can see, like the points projection, very similar. Budget gain is very similar. So very similar teams. I like the Piastri team with the addition of Albon to be a team that could possibly race for this race weekend and next race weekend, which again would potentially open up the flexibility to apply limitless in Japan. So I just tend to go for teams that not only give me sort of like maximize points in this week, especially with the new formula of budget gains with our assets this year. It's really important just to kind of have one eye forward to next week, because we almost can predict what can happen next week as well. We're still going to get through this race weekend, but things are looking like they'll probably follow the same pattern for race 3. Now, there's no real difference. It really just comes down to, do you prefer Norris or Piastri in this one? I've seen other teams out there that are still kind of looking at like a Piastri Williams build or a Piastri Haas build. Again, I'm kind of looking at like the driver makeup and thinking, Aston have been looking decent this weekend, and maybe I do fancy and sort of trust Lance Stroll and Fernando Alonso as a twosome, more so over an Ocon and a Bear one. Can really, we gotta trust the Spaniard Fernando Alonso. Is he really gonna DNF twice in a row? I mean, it could happen. But the wily old fox there could always spring a surprise. So that's definitely sort of where I'm thinking with my current teams. If you're more on you did well last week, I think I would definitely encourage picks similar to my team one. But if your team had just a tank week last week and you're looking for a quick, get yourself back into the mix with some good budgets and some good points, as well as looking forward to next week, then I think one of these two teams on screen here could be something that you would consider. But let me know what you think. If you got any comments, please leave them on the comments in the channel. You can also find me on Twitter or X. I'll leave my handle in the channel description down below. Otherwise, I wish everyone a really happy weekend. Enjoy the race, and we'll catch you on the next one.